First of all, let's see where I got to, okay? And that will, what does it take to start a new app? Okay, here we go. Here I have it's your application, Daniel. You see the JT, correct?
Yeah.
This is yours. But see, the beauty of it is I refresh and ESO says hi. I click on Sigal, it says Sigal Baran is hi. Amos, it's Amos. Okay, I want to change the content of this is a web page, okay? Let me say what the final product is supposed to be. I made it in such a way that when by the way, I organized the GS to be under Academy City, and there's two that we're using now, majorly for now. There's others, but this I'm using for the corporate valuation. This is the truth of the matter. I wish I did this one as well with that, but for now I'm not going to switch it. But the one that we're using, it's this core V7. This one I kept for you, Daniel. So if you want to teach it, when you teach it, you can use the steps, how we got there. You got it?
Yes.
It will take you at least several times and you have to redo the whole things again when you teach it. That's going to be in certificate 3. But for now, after you get to that point, I keep it as a V7 and I tell you, and what is the structure? The structure is, all what you have is a HTML, one HTML, that's it. And the HTML is very simple. It has really nothing. We have some script here, which is conventional. Okay, the only thing is these 2 lines, which I'll get. I went over that last time. I'll go over it again today. And this library, this is it. Then you can start a new application. That's all what you need to put there. That's beautiful. And that the same library goes to each one of them. I'm going to make a one that we're going to call a business simulation. Okay? And the business simulation, okay, this is something that eventually I would like you, Daniel, to manage with those guys to get them in. Okay? So they will join you mostly after they finish their certificate 2, which I hope it will be soon. Yeah, within the next 3-4 weeks, you'll finish all that stuff. Am I right? And then they will start certificate 3. In certificate 3, they should learn that stuff, and you already will be ahead. So they will learn it and start working with you actually on this project called a business simulation. Fair enough?
Okay.
And then you know how to lead them. Hopefully by then you'll open a new class in certificate 1 and you get them to help you to build up the certificate 1, and they will take some of the load of the certificate 1 that they will start teaching a little bit. You know, as I did with you, you do with them. Got it? Okay. Same things. We'll do another applications that the Brenda will lead, macroeconomics. So we'll make 2 applications today. We'll see the evolution, how it should be evolved. And I will go over that with you. We'll get a lot of trouble as we go along, but we will solve all the problems. Okay, but let me explain the structure. First of all, we make a new application. We will have only one HTML. Okay, that HTML will have a link to the library, this library. And in that one, you will write something like this one. And I will explain that in a second. And secondly, so there are 2 elements in the HTML. It's very simple. The header, it's empty for now. I put some styles, and I'll go over that in a second. I put there 2 styles, and we'll go over them in a second. Why do I need the styles? So one thing is the styles. The second thing is the library. And the third is these 2 lines. The beauty here, you can copy that one and put it in another application. And you only will change one place. And I will demonstrate it as well. Okay, so far so good. The
Yeah.
second thing is when you make a new application, you just simply you just simply have to register it in the setting, as you know, and this is it. You're ready to go. Amazing. Okay. Now, so how does it work? And let's see, and things that I will build with you, the tools, but eventually people don't need to know all the tools. That's the one things that I do want you, the three, to be expert in. So you lead the development of the tools as well, not just developing the application. What do I mean by that? I'm developing now these tools. Let me refresh. Okay. So what do I mean by the tools? If I click here and I click editor, okay, and I click on HTML, this is exactly the HTML. It says hi. If I change it, let's say I will make it bolded, or I make H1. Okay, hi SEO, and I put H1. Now see, this is the beauty. I will do save. I will make it, I will do it even with you today. Then when I save it, it automatically will show here. Okay, if I save it now, if I refresh, this is what the student, see, it says hi SEO with H1, am I right?
Yes.
You got it? Now, moreover, I did more sophisticated than that. I did also, when I go now to the, again, to here, and I go to editor, I go to the code. Every tab has a function in JavaScript that being called when the tab is being created. You will see the powerful of that one. But this is like making our own Django, a little one layer above Django. What do I mean by that? Let's say if I remove that one, you see, I'll change the alt. It looks like a JavaScript function, isn't it? Am I right?
Yes.
Now see the beauty. I'm saving it. And I'm refreshing. See what will happen now? Up, you see it says SEO.
Right.
And it will say ATM, because this is, I will talk about what those are in a second, but this is beautiful. So I can go here. If I, when the page is being created, the first function it's being called is this function. And it's really nice because I can edit one function on the right side and I can have a list of functions on the left side. You got my idea, Daniel?
Yes, but
What does it keep the code? It keeps them in a database. So we don't need all those pages. If you remember, I kept them for you, but we don't really use them. Let's go to your app. Let's go to your app. Where is your app? Right here. Is that right? Am I right? This is your app. Am I right?
yes.
And we always in Django put all those pages. Am I right? And they include, you had all those pages. Remember, that's the way we started. We don't use them. I can delete them. The reason I didn't delete them, I kept them for you. You might want to use it the way we started. But I'm not using it. So I don't really need any HTML here anymore. Remember we did a tab and then we had to attach it to HTML, the way we used to read it. Now we don't need it. It's gone. That's beautiful because look, we're getting so many. Going to corporate valuation, look at that. It's getting bigger and bigger. We get lost. Why did we put the HTMLs? We won't need all of those anymore. That's beautiful. That's really extending Django. People would love to have that one day. You know, we can make a video online after we get it and get a GitHub, and you will see you will get a lot of hits because nobody has done something like that. I'm not sure I want to do that because this is something I might want to keep just for ourselves. It will improve our development's time, big time, to do web application, not a website. It's not a fab house. It's not BizLand. You got it?
Yes.
This is totally web app. Very few people can build it at all. And here we went one step ahead, instead of all those, you don't really need those. They will be saved in a database. Okay, and I will go over it deeper and deeper and several times until you really understand the structure, the idea. It's complex. It's very complex, but it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. As I said, I have done it 20 years ago. In fact, I haven't done all the stuff I did 20 years ago. I did here, but this time I want to combine it with Django. And people know Django, so they will jump all over it when they will discover it. So let's make, hold it, maybe before that. Let's look at what does it really do? Here I have the functions. So I'm missing a button here that will say create a function. Is that right? I want a new function. It's like when you look at my corporate valuation, if you look at the way I designed it, I have all those included in the simulations. Each one of those go with a tab. Is that right? That's the way we organize originally. If I go to the tab of input, here is input. So we have in the top, we have the HTML. Is that right? All the structure of the HTML, correct?
Right.
After the HTML, see all this HTML, I'm using it. So the first part on the top of the page, we have HTML. And then in the bottom, we have a lot of functions. This is all functions. You see a function, functions, and I'm calling those functions, use them, blah, blah, blah. So far, so good? So I said, if this is the structure of each one of my tabs are exactly the same, this is not really nice to, first of all, I have to use PyCharm. Is that right? For JavaScript, you don't really need the PyCharm because JavaScript, we're writing it ourselves. It's all text, correct?
Yes.
So can I build up something similar? I have one part is the HTML, and the other part is all those functions I need for this page. The idea is, okay, let's look at the page here. Let's refresh again. It's always will call it, unless I'll remove it. I'll remove it in a second. If I'm working on this page, so each one of them has like HTML and its own functions, correct? So why don't I make an editor online that I click, let's say when I'm an SEO, I click the editor, is automatically recognize that I clicked on SEO. And when I go into the HTML, this is the HTML. So you can look at this one as really the code that I have on the top here. So far, so good?
So good.
And then all those functions in the bottom, I want all of them. By the way, each one of them I usually try to put as a function by itself. So here we go, I have a function. I want these functions, instead of writing it into this page, I want to put it in a database. So when I go to the code of this page, I want all the list of the functions to be here. And when I click on one of them, I will see what the function is. And then when the page is loaded, it will activate those functions and being called when I call them. It will make much more sense as we go along. Now, for example, if I comment that out, like we always do, is that right? I save it now. It saves it to a database. If I refresh, it won't be called anymore. You see, SO is not being called. That function, it's being called, but I commented the stuff. How do we do it? That's pretty cool. The one thing I said last time, if I go into here, by the way, how many tabs do I have? Let's see. We have 3 tabs, SEO, Sigal, Amos, just like the number of tabs we have here. I want to see Amos, okay? I click on the editor. I have this code. This is the function, and this is the HTML. Is that right? How do I see it's in the database? It's kept in the database. Let's look at Amos. This is my role for Amos. See, this is exactly the HTML, am I right?
Yeah.
And this is exactly the function, but it's organized in a nice way as a JSON field. So what do I see here? I have functions. I don't know if you see that. Can you see it? Is that big enough? Hold a second.
Yes, it's big enough.
There we go. You see that? So
Yeah.
I have a dictionary, basically. Inside the dictionary, I call it functions. And inside the functions, it's another dictionary. The function is dictionary. This is the name of the first function. You see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the function? This is the function itself. You got it?
Yeah.
And if I have another function, which I'm going to create with you as I go along, you will be able to add to this dictionary another function. Okay? And I want him to be able to add it to the list there. Let's do it manually first. Let's see if I will succeed. Okay? I'm going to take the whole things here. Okay? Control copy. And I'll put it right after that, like in a dictionary. Is that right? And I changed it. It's not Amos in it. Let's call it Amos on click. And I will explain. We're going to do it automatically in a second. And I'll write here, click. We're going to create a button that will do it automatically for us. And inside, okay, inside, let's leave it that one, then I will change it and see if it works. Let's save it. This is being creative. This is something you don't read in books. Okay, now let's see if I was successful, if it works or not. Fresh. SEO, I think I did it in Amos, am I right? Was it Amos? That's what I did? Yeah. So let's go into Amos and let's click on editor. Let's go to the code. You see, I have 2 functions.
Yeah.
I click on click, it's the same things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one. Click and let's do here like that. That will be cool. And then you will see how beautiful it is. This is the click function. And then you will see how you can play with it. Okay. Now, let me go into the initial. Let's go and take Amos click. Well, this is the name of the function. Am I right?
Yes.
Correct. By the way, the object I will talk about in a minute, it really is the object that manages the tab. Okay? So I made the architecture in a way that I always give you which object it is. So let me go into the initial. Now this one is the initial, which is another function. Let's leave, what happened? Why it doesn't like me? Wait a second, maybe I didn't do it right. I need to find out, this is the click function. This is whatever it is. Okay, this is good. It is changed, but I want to go into here and add another line. By the way, it's a good habit to put a semicolon after every comment. And I'm going to put this function and I'm going to call it. I will transfer to it the object. Okay, and let's see what happened now. So I should really, let me put it this way. Let's take this one out. So what should really happen now, it will do the alert when I just start the program. And when this tab is being created, it's going to call this function. And this function is going to say, I am the tab name, it will say Amos. And this is a test. And right after that, it will call the second function. I still have a lot of bugs that I need to click. So I saved that. I saved both of them. And then it will call the second one. I didn't even test it, by the way. I'm just testing it now. Let's refresh. Oh, I am Amos. You see that? Amos is exactly the object's tab name. Okay, it's being created. It's not created yet. And then I do okay. Oh, this is a click function. You see that? It called the other function. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
So I have really in Amos, I have two functions. And this function is really calling this function. You see that? The second function is being called by the first function. This one is automatically called every time that the page is being created, and I might use it. Okay, I might already want to do stuff when it's being created, and you will see we will as we go along. You got it? Let's say I want to build up the whole page. See, my page is empty. You got it?
Yes.
That's one thing. I might want to build up some stuff here dynamically in JavaScript as the page is being called. Okay, or do signaling or do something. But this is, I'm making my own kind of Django did with their stuff. We're making in JavaScript several things that are very important when you're clicking. So when you click on something, I want this function to be called immediately. It's not really that way it works now, but it will. But first of all, if you see I have two functions, they are saved in here. Let me refresh. Let's open Amos now. You'll see the function I copied changed. You see, this is changed. You see that? The Amos click have changed to say this is the click function. You see that?
Yeah.
Now I can see if I will go, let me change it again. I go into here and I go into the click one, and in the click, and let's write more than that, okay? Let's write, but we'll do a lot of numbers so we can identify it. It'll be easy to see it in the database, okay? Let me save it. And let's refresh. And you see, I am Amos, meaning the tab Amos is going to be created. And then it will call the other function from the init, and see it's calling the other function. Is that right?
Yes.
And what does it save it? It's not in HTML, it's saving it in the database. So if I go to Amos here, the beauty here it is, it's saving here. You see that?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You got the idea?
Yes.
Yes.
This is really unique. So I don't really have to drag a lot of HTMLs anymore. And by the way, this is not good enough for me. I will do it even more sophisticated than that. I'm going to take the power of Django and integrate it with it, because I don't really have the Jinja language embedded inside yet. I want to embed the Jinja. So I'm going to make it more sophisticated, but step by step. That's why I want to do it with you guys. And you guys go over it, over and over, and start using it as well. So half a year from now, you'll be expert. Fair enough?
Yes.
So HTML, I wrote Amos here, is that right? See, I can change it here. It won't make a difference. I can put it here, or I can change it in the editor. Let's write here, Amos, and I write here Michael. Okay, I save it. I'm saving it really in the database. When it's saved in the database, why it doesn't like me? Because I have this Zoom there. Come on. Save. Okay. If I go here and I refresh it again, it says the functions that I just did. And then when I go to Amos, it says Amos and Michael. Fair enough? But I don't want to go to the database and change it in the database. It's inconvenient. So after I click here, I have an editor that if I go to the HTML, here it is. It's exactly what's in the database. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add another two. And this is the way I would like to work. I don't want to look at the database. Am I right?
Yeah.
I want to put here a SEO. I want to put here Opio. Okay, I have 4 now. Is that right? I'm saving. Where is it saving it to? It's saving it to the database. So if I refresh and I go to, which one am I under? Amos? Yes. I go to Amos again. You will see that he automatically added it to this field. So when I refresh this page, when I starting this page, what it does is start building up the tabs. When it create the first tab, it called the first function init. But at the same time, it's also getting the HTML and showing it into the page. So it's doing 2 things. It's going over every function, activating them, and then calling the first init. The init is always called immediately. So I do, okay, this is the first init, and here we go. When I go, it created the 3 of them, and the first one has all those 4. That's beautiful. You got it?
Yes.
Now, this is something I want the 3 of you to know by heart, to learn this architecture. This is what I'm living after I die. I believe that a lot of people would love to have this ability. It doesn't exist out there. I already have checked. This is very sophisticated feature. Now, moreover, so let's go back here and go to the editor, and we don't really want in the init to anything to be called. So I'm just commenting it out, just we usually do. Is that right?
Yes.
So I'm saving, and then refresh, you will see it will be called. Everybody got the idea?
Yes, doctor.
So what do we really need? We have 2 fields. This field, okay, is going to be filled inside the HTML part. And all the functions here is going to go function by functions and define them as if I put an HTML. Okay? 2 things he has to do. Secondly, I have an editor. When I click on, let's say, Sigal, and I click on the editor, it becomes to be the editor for this tab. And this tab has 2 elements. It has the code, which she has, but I commented out, so that's why it doesn't call. And the second, the HTML of this page. You see, it's exactly the HTML. So the editor is able to edit the content of the HTML and also to allow me to put more functions and use them to do stuff for me for the page. As we do it more and more, you understand. First of all, the concept is hard. We're putting the code now and the HTML inside the database. Nobody has done that. You see React, Node.js, there's so many platforms. Secondly, we're utilizing Django. That's beautiful. You got it? So far, so good?
So,
Now we have Let's look at another things. We have ability to add tabs. So let's add another tab. Okay, let's call this tab Michael. I'm adding tab Michael. Okay, okay. And by the way, you give me this error. I have to remove it, but I will handle it. That doesn't make any difference. We have Michael, but Michael is empty. Is that right?
Right.
I discovered that if I do editor, I still have to fix that too. It doesn't give me the function. I have to refresh. So I will handle it as we go along. So if I click on Michael now, I still have empty, but when I go to the editor and go to the code, it makes that right away. I will fix it. It will make it immediately. So in Michael, I have this function automatically created for me. This function will be called automatically when this page being created. So that's one. Secondly, the HTML is empty because there's nothing. So I might want to write here, okay, introductions. I can do I'm just really writing HTML. H3, introduction, intro, to electrical engineering. First, okay? H3. So far, so good? Let's do something sophisticated. Let's write on this one, give it an ID. ID equal, let's call it just title. Title. Now, I will advise probably, make sure because there's so many of them and you might get confused. I will write Michael title, just so you make sure that it's always will be unique. Did I spell it right? Michael. Okay. Now, see what I can do now. I go to here. So far, so good.
Yes.
Save it, so I won't lose it. And then I'm going to the code and the init, okay? We'll use init and I'm gonna work with you to add a button that will add a function automatically for me. But what I will do now, I changed my mind. I don't want to really that it will say whatever it said. I want to change it. We can use document. You see, I'm writing JavaScript, document dot get element by ID. We all know that function. Is that right, Daniel?
Yes.
And this is the name. Is that right? Michael title. Is that right?
Yeah.
I can change the inner HTML to say Amos. So in this case, really what's going to happen is, let me save it. See, when I go to the HTML, it should really say Intro to Electrical Engineering. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
So if I go to the code and I comment that one out,
Document should be changed.
it should say electrical engineering. Let's see if that's what it does. Here we go, Michael. You see, SEO says SEO. When I go to Michael, it says Intro to Electrical Engineering. But if I go back to the function, which is being called when the page is being created, and I uncomment it, so he's going to change it to Amos. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You got it, guys?
Yes.
This function is being called every time the tab is being created. So I'm going to say, by the way, you notice I'm clicking here to make sure that this is on change feature of this. This is a text area. Okay, so I need to click somewhere so I know that it's saved it. And then when I click, it saves it to the database. Now when I run it, a document is not, the hell with it. had an error. Why does it do that? Let me go back. Do I have it? Do I have
Document.
Did I make an error?
It should be E, not A.
How to say it? Document. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so let me do it again. Save that, refresh. And it says Amos now. Why does it say Amos? Because it's override
In HTML.
exactly. So you see, it works. It works as it should be, like I wrote it on a HTML, like what I did here with all this HTML stuff. I just don't want to make HTML. I want to do everything on the database. So now let's go and dive in. Let's dive in it. How is then being created? By the way, it's the same, yeah. Just let's see who is that one. Yeah, I know that. I want to call him back later on. It's the same things. Okay. This is in here. Many times I like to use the other one. It's the same things, yeah. Okay. So how is the structure works? It's really hard. Honestly, it's hard. It's one of the hardest from software engineering as far as JavaScript concerned. Most of the work it is done inside. Let's close this one. And we have the AP HTML. Now, who does the hard work? First of all, this one is creating an object. And how does it do it? This page is being called by let me close this one. Let me go back to this one. That's the one that Daniel has done. And it has a view function. It has the URL, is that right? In the URL, the main URL, we have the T, correct, Daniel?
Yes, sir.
The T takes me to the tab. So I do Control B. And that's the only function I need. All the rest, Daniel, in fact, I can delete. Okay? You will see we'll delete all of those. We'll do a new application in a second. And the only thing this one does is only opening the page HTML. That's everybody of us know, correct?
Yeah.
And if you notice, to this page, I'm transferring a variable called ATM, which is Advanced Tab Manager name. And I call it ATM. I could call it anything. Fair enough? But when you call it that, you can use it in other places. I'll teach you a lot of tricks. But this is the name that I want the manager to be called. So now, when I go to here, this is the page is delivering. This is exactly this page. So what's happening on this page? In the header, I have nothing special, nothing. I have some styles. We'll get to those styles again in a second. And then in the body is totally empty. So far, so good?
So good.
I have a library with a lot of objects and JavaScript, which we, in a minute we'll see. One of which, if I open this library, let's open it. Where is it? Oh, so where's my library? In the static, where's the static? Let me close. Static, anybody see? Yeah, here we go. And in the static, we have, what is Academy City? No, in the GS, under the GS, we have Academy City. As it says here, you see that? GS, Academy City, core. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then under the core, we have advanced tabs. Why did I put it under the core? Because every application can use it. And we'll use it in a minute for another application. So which kind of objects do we have inside? So the main one, let me shrink everything. is by the way, I just discovered that I never really had time even to look at it. It says folding and collapse with collapse all, then you make it nice. See the way I structured it. The top one is the advanced tab manager. This is an object. How do you know it's an object? You can see I'm adding functions to the objects. You see that? So the first object, it already is, I usually like to do it this way. I just didn't have time to. This is really the first object. It's a JavaScript class, okay? Object. The second object, it's a tab. So this is manage all the tabs and has functionality for the tabs. This one managing each tab that we see here, like here, each tab is being managed by the tab object. Okay, so we have a tab object and it has some functionality. Then inside it, okay, AC Win, it's really like those, when I open the window, let's say I open the editor, this is a pop-up window, I call it. You got it?
Yes.
So, but in order to be able to generate many of it, what I did is I did the following. I created a basic object. This is a basic AC Win pop up window. That's what usually does one pop up window. So far, so good. But this is the basic. I don't really use that directly. What I do, I usually use this one to create a pop-up window. So I call it pop-up window, but I can call it any name. And this one inherent from the AC Win. You see that?
Yes.
This is the way you do inheritance in JavaScript, different than Python. Secondly, you must inside the function to call this object with a call function. So far, so good. And you add these. You must enter these into it, otherwise it will not work. And then you put all the variables as normal objects creations. Okay, you can see all the variables, they are in there, as it is the definition of the AC Win. So when you look at the AC Win, you can see there's a lot of variables. My name, win title, right, how much to the right, how much on the top, where to open it. You got it?
Yeah.
And all those is scroll. Can I allow scrolling or not? If you want that, and all of that, you should go over it. The Z index is very sophisticated part. If I have several pop-up windows and I want always the one I click on the title to come up to be first and override that to cover the other ones, there's a trick that I made there. And that one does it. The tab object is to which tab does it belongs to? Which tab does it belong to? Because the pop-up could belong to different, this one, by the way, I'm just making it to be belonging to all of them. But in here, what I did is when I click here, and then I click the editor, by the way, is deleting the old one and is creating a new one. And in the new one, it transferred the tab that I want this editor to work on. That's why I transfer in the object that manage the tab. So this editor knows which one is going to edit. And how do I confirm that it does the work? Because on the title, I'm writing the name of the tab. You see that? It says Amos. Got it? If
Yes.
I click on SEO, and then I click editor, it's going to delete the previous one and create a new one. But this one, it says for tab SEO. Now I know I'm editing the SEO tab. That's why I'm transferring this variable tab object. And then another thing is nav panel. Do I have a panel in there or I don't have a panel? Yes, I do. In this case, we do have, by the way, we do have a panel. What is the panel? You see, we have a panel here. You see that? This is
Yes.
a panel. If I don't put yes, it will not generate the panel. I don't see the buttons. I won't have a place to put the buttons. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just get the concept first, and then we go into the code. And you should learn this code by heart, honestly. I want you to be the expert on that one and to be the leaders on building the GitHub eventually, updating it is, and you'll start getting a lot of phone calls. Believe me, take my word for it. You will see. We'll make a video for it and start making a whole series. We'll continue the series in Academy City. We'll make a series for advanced Django. Okay, we call it Academy City Tools for development or something like that. And you will see people will start finding it. It will take time in the beginning, but this is very innovative, very, very innovative. Again, I'm not sure I want to do that. I need to think about it, or I want to keep it for us. Maybe it's good to have it as an open source and people will call us to implement it for them, because not everybody can control all of that knowledge. Anyway, so when I click here and then I click the editor, is deleting really the old one and creating a new one, but this time it's for SEO. I click on Sigal and I click editor, is deleting the old one, makes the new one, and it says Sigal here. You got it?
Yeah.
And now the code and this function is coming from the database. That row has two elements, the HTML element and the code element. But every row has, Michael has the same things. Now I click editor. Michael has this HTML, but it has also code. And his code, I changed that one to change it to Amos. Everybody got the idea?
Yes.
And this
Yeah.
one I call a pop-up window. I can create as many as I want and many kinds as I want. Okay? But this time I just made it smart to have only one, but I kind of tricked it that when I click on Amos and click on editor, it deletes the old one and make a new one. It's so fast, but this one is working with this tab and is editing this specific tab. So when I go to the HTML, I do really get the HTML for this page. Okay, now this is a development tool. When I'm done, when we all done, we don't need to see add tab, delete tab, editor. The final user not supposed to be able to add tabs. It's only for the programmers. Got it? So how do we remove it? Very simple. I go into now how do you remove it? I just made a little trick that I think I added another variable. Where did I put it, God? I need just to remember. Yeah, it's all the way up. It's in the advanced manager. Is show buttons. You see that?
Yeah.
We have a variable here. Now, let's go back again to the very beginning. Now that we know we have an object called Advanced Tab Manager, I need to create it. So where do I create it? Is in the HTML, the first HTML. When the page is loaded, we said that this function, it's being called when the page is ready. So when the page is ready, I am making a new object of Advanced Tab Manager. Got it?
Yeah.
I'm creating it. When I'm creating it, I'm putting each show button true. If I change it to false, by the way, pay attention in JavaScript, the false is with a little all small letters. In Python, it's a big F, okay? Or a big T for true. It's a little different. So I changed it to false. What is it going to do? If you go into the code, you look at here and you look what this variable is. So you check what that variable is and you see it here. It's right in this line. It said, if is show buttons equal to true, or if it is true, create the buttons. Is this one creating those buttons, those three buttons, those three buttons. If it is false, this is not being called, and then those buttons will not be there. So let's try that. Refresh. Bingo. That's the way the user is supposed to see it. Got it?
Yes.
Now, how do you do it smart? We know that you guys are in a group of administrators. Am I right?
Yes.
So eventually, in the end, later on, we'll play with it. What we will do, that the code will say, we don't have to, in this page, and don't forget this is going through Ginger. So when I create it, is this variable going to be false or true? I can use Ginger here. Is that right?
Yes.
I will use and check if I'm an administrator or not. If it's administrator, it will say true. If it's not administrator, it will say false. And you don't have to worry about it anymore. Got it? By the way, I have done similar things and, I can just copy it for myself. Let's go here. Let's go into my apps in the corporate valuation. I probably did it there. And I go into the home. And let's see, Control F, admin. Here we go. And I have, here we go. I just looking for a condition. Here we go. By the way, I created what it called a tag, a special tagging that I did. So I created it. One day I will teach you that one. But by the way, in order to use it, I have to bring this on the very top in a minute. So here we go. Load tag, core tag. This is something I created. But now let's go back to here. I go to here. And what I can do here, now since this is a Ginger, Control V. If the user is in the group of admins, okay? If it's in the admins, okay, I will say true. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then we just need to use else. Correct? I want to have it false. And then we'll have and if, I think it's called. And if. Okay, now it will do it automatically. If we know if I'm logging in with the admin, then it will say true. Then I can have those three buttons to add more tabs or whatever, correct? If it's a regular user, which is not administrator, it cannot change anything. It doesn't need to see these buttons, correct? Fair enough. But in order to use this trick, you must import what I did here in this one. You should bring this one as well. Now, by the way, this one is in the core application. If you go to the core, I added their special called tag something, template tags. I think this is here, and I think this is it. So one of them is, where is it? Here we go. You see, this one does the trick, okay? But that's a different topic. Don't worry about it. That's not important for now. One day we'll deal with it. Forget about that for now. I just need to bring this library. You don't even have to. You just need to, if you want to use this kind of logic to check if somebody is in a specific group. You just can, no, not this one. I don't really want this one. I want to go back to this one. Let me first of all put it here. You just put it here, and then you can use this trick that I just did here. But see, this is the beauty here. Yeah, well, I can just put it here, by the way. And let's call it this way, this way, go this way, go this way, go this way. Fair enough? So now, is show button is a function of who I am, and that's it. Just, you know, I always forget what I do. And if I need to use it, I just go and keep copy for myself, as I usually do. Okay, now let's refresh. Remember, I didn't have the buttons, but now it will check I'm an admin. I logged in as an admin. So it should show me the buttons. Yeah, here we go, it's showing me the buttons. You see that? If somebody else will log in, is only a student or instructor, they're not supposed to see those buttons. Got it?
Yes.
And that's a little trick. So now, the admin, now the beauty here, I'm creating this advanced manager is in charge of handling everything. Another trick, which is very beautiful. I'm giving it a name. See, I'm using JavaScript, but I know how Django works. How Django works? First of all, he's using Jinja before he's sending the page to the user. Is that right? When is this function being called? It's only when the page gets to the computer of the user. So stage number one, Jinja is taking this page and going over it. And when it's saying this one, that means this is transferred from the view. So when we're calling this view, it's transferring ATM name as ATM. You got it? So,
Yes.
and it goes to here and is processing this one before he's sending it to the user. So what is going to be said when the page downloaded to the user, it will say var ATM, because that's the name I gave it. Is creating it to be the variable name of this object. Everybody got it? This is a beautiful tree. And then, by the way, I put it my name. But this is really looks stupid, but it's so powerful. I'm giving the objects to tell him what's his name is. Because otherwise he won't know how to call his name from several functions. Okay, you will see as we get along. But in the end of the day, what am I saying? Let's do right click, view page, source page. And let's go and scroll all the way to that line. This is the line, is that right? Let me make it bigger so you can see it. What is really this? See, it put ATM here. You got it? Because Jinja worked first. It gets to the user and it showed ATM. That's what it delivered to the user. Got it? The same thing,
Yes.
his name is ATM. That's the way I wanted it to say. Later on, body, document get element by, I told him what is the body. And look at the end. It show buttons is true. You see that? Because Jinja checked what is my, if I am an administrator, he looked at that as the database. Since I am an administrator, he put a true. Otherwise, he would put a false. When it gets true, these objects are supposed to create those three buttons because this is true here. Everybody got it?
Yeah.
Yes.
You sure? This is hard. Watch my video several times even. Brenda, are you with us?
Yes, doctor.
This is hard, honestly. I worked very hard on this structure. Now this is beautiful. Why is it beautiful? By the way, I can generate two types of buttons of editors. Can I or cannot? Of course I can. And one I call it ATM, the other one I call it whatever I want. And how can I do that? I'm not going to do it because it will be a waste of time. No, let's hold it on making view windows. I do it in Academy, in the corporate valuation. Remember, I had several in the S&P 500. We have several windows. We'll get there. Okay. So let's focus on one pop-up window. The one pop-up window, it's the editor. Okay. So when I click and I click on this one, it's open up. This is the pop-up window. And who is managing this pop-up window? The admin, the advanced tabs manager. He is creating the window, is doing everything. So let's look at that a little bit. So this is how I'm creating the command, and this is creating this object. So let's look at this object. This object is defined in this library. And here's the definition. You get several variables, my name, and I just put it here. By the way, body underscore, what is body underscore? This is really what I'm transferring to it. What am I transferring here, by the way? Let's look at it. When I'm transferring its body, it really is the document dot get element by ID body. But what it is, I always love to transfer to that's the body itself, the element body. Got it? This is really the place I want the administrator, the advanced tab manager to put my things inside. I could have done it differently, by the way. Here it will work just perfectly. Let's make a div here. Okay. And I will call this div ID equal Amos. Fair enough?
Yes.
And it's empty. I don't want it to put here. And by the way, I can make another one here so you can appreciate that. Okay. And let's don't call it Amos. Of course, let's just put some stupid things here. Blah, blah. Okay, just some div. And I want it to be below the div, below this div. What can I transfer to it now? What can I transfer now? I don't have to take body. I can just call Amos. Is that right? So it will put the content inside there. And it means we'll see how it does it. Okay, but let's run it. Refresh. Here we go. You see, it says blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the administrator is managing the whole things. So it came under it. Fair enough?
Fair.
But I don't want it to be that way. Okay, if I go back now and put this one, Control Z, let's leave the blah, blah there. Let's leave the blah, blah. What's going to happen now? Pretty interesting. Okay. Let's leave it that way. Okay. And let's put just something else here. Let's call it A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. Let's see what's going to happen now. But that's something you can figure it out. You're in a level, you can figure it out. I refresh. Oh, look at what happened. I have blah, 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 A, B, C, D, E, F. And then he put that in the body. Why? Because the way I told him, it's just append. When he's appending, he's putting in the end of the body. And the body already have two divs. It has two divs in the beginning, those two divs. So he's going to put another div, which being managed down right here. And we'll see in a minute. You got it? So, but I really don't need that one. And I don't need that one because this guy, unless I need them. Yeah. But at least I understand I am transferring here body, but I can transfer any div where to put the advanced tabs to be there. Got it?
Yeah.
We can be even more sophisticated. We can have tabs inside the tab and all that complex, but we don't need to do that too much. Complexity is not a good idea. But this one, at least, I'm telling him the ID of the body, where is the body, and I'm transferring it to this variable and it is this object, and he's going to manage it. And then I'm telling him if to show the buttons, he's going to tell him true because I'm an admin. And this one, it's very interesting. That the only things I need to transfer to him, if you want to access some data in the database, I made a special function for you. And that function is in the core application and the function called activate function. Got it? And what
Yes.
I'm transferring is really the link to it. So if we go back to here and we do right click, view page source, and we go all the way down, let's make it big again. See the beauty of it. I'm telling him, in fact, it translates the link to where to find how to get to the view that will give you the data. So far, so good.
Yes.
It's not an easy stuff. Since you have already a lot of knowledge, that's a little easier, but it's still not easy stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So let's summarize. I'm creating an object. The name, I'm telling him how to name that as a global variable, ATM, in the view. I'm telling the object what is his name, so he will know that in the global, I'm calling it as ATM. So I might use that global variable inside some functions that I cannot transfer the name of that object. And you will see, we'll use that trick. Then I'm telling him, where do I want him to put the advanced tab? That's why I'm giving him this one. Then eventually, I'm telling him if you want to access some database stuff or do something, use this function, this link, that will take you to a view of a function called activate function. And I will explain that in a minute. We're going to deeper than that. In fact, it's doing much more than that. In the URLs, it goes to this function. And this function is more sophisticated. I need to transfer to it a variable of a function. It would call that function that belongs to a specific object. Much more complex. But for now, I just need to just put this one there. Forget about it. And we'll show you in a minute how does it work. Okay? You usually really don't need to even think about it because it does everything automatically. Finally, I'm telling him if I am an administrator, make sure to create those buttons for creating more tabs. Am I okay so far? Are we okay so far?
Yeah.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. This is hard, as I said before. It's not really as easy as the other stuff we did so far. Now let's continue. Let's go continue. I hope this one is clear now. And how do we use it? Let's go back to this library. This library worth gold. This is the object. Again, we transfer, I keep everything inside. This dot, it's like self in Python. I said it last time. So I'm keeping my name. I'm keeping to where I'm going to put my advanced tabs. And so I keep it there. Moreover, the activate function link, I keep it here also. So I can use it in other functions of the object. Then I have something called titles and containers. What is that one? By the way, I'm going to have, those are, I call titles, the tabs themselves, and each one of them going to have a container, okay? So this one going to be a div holding all those stuff, and this one going to be all the tabs that I'm going to hold. So we'll see in a second, okay? So I have, in fact, I have the titles and I have the container. I will see in a minute what is this one is. You will see I have three elements. The truth of the matter is I already have three elements This is a div that holds those ones, a div that holds all of those ones, and another div that holds the divs for each tab. So there's 3 containers, 1, 2, 3, and inside that container, for each button, for each tab, I have a tab, I have a button, and I have a container. Okay, and the container is going to be a sub HTML. Okay, let's move on. And we'll see in a minute. For now, I just gave it a null because I haven't done anything. I have a dictionary, and that dictionary going to hold an object. For each tab is going to hold an object inside. Okay, and I will show you that one in a minute after we see. Okay, you will see. We'll activate that in a second. Okay, what I will do, you know what? Let me do it here so you can see it after it's really being created. But I always forgot that stringify, Control F, len. Here we go. I need to copy that one. That always, you will need that, otherwise you will show it to you as an object. After this function create all the tabs, but I just wanted to show you, after this function going to create this one. You got it?
Yeah.
It's going to fill it up. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just to show you what it looks like, even before I went over this function. I will get to that, okay? But to see it as an JSON, as a JSON, there's a command in JSON library in JavaScript that take an object and make it look like a string. So I'm going to make this dictionary to look like a string, and we'll see how that looks like. Why it doesn't like me? I didn't put alert. Okay, I want it to show me whatever it is. Okay, I will refresh. After it's creating all of them, why it doesn't like me again? I thought it should. Tabs, JSON, stringify, these.tabs. Why it doesn't like me? Try. Let's see what the error. Maybe I have some error here. I don't think so, but we'll see. It should show that to me. I'll figure it out in a second. We'll see why it doesn't like me. It showed me is it's an empty. Why is it an empty? Huh. Why does it show that to me as an empty? Okay, I will see in a second. Doesn't make sense to me. I will come back to that, okay? Let's leave it for now. I'll get back to that. Fair enough, I'll get back to that. Let's just comment it out for now. Let's continue and I'll get back to that. So I'm defining a dictionary and then I have a functions that I'm calling initiate, create containers. What that one does, very simple one. It really is this function. Maybe I will put it first. Let me change the order. So this is really the first one is calling. It doesn't really make a difference. You can define it any way you want. Okay? Let's leave a space between them. Okay. It's calling this function. So what does it do? Okay. It's creating a div. I'm giving it an ID. I don't really have to because I can use it without. And the only things I'm doing, I'm appending it, appending child. I'm taking this new div I'm creating, and I'm appending it to the element body. Remember, what is element body? It's really the variable I transferred here, and I call it inside this element body. This is really why I want the tab, the first tab, to be there. So the container is really adding just the container on the top. It doesn't add the buttons. So if I do right click here and inspect, you can see that this is the div he's creating. You see that? And it has an ID, add, delete, editor. That's all what it does. Later on, I'm creating those tabs inside, okay? So this is the first one that I use, div. The second div is gonna be this one. The second div is the buttons for the actual program. You got it? That's the next one. You see that? All of those ones. And after that, I have another div which hold the divs inside the containers. It's the body of every tab. Everybody got it? So we have three divs, each one holding something else. The first one is holding the add, delete, editor. It's like those three buttons. And they're gonna be shown only if I'm an admin, otherwise it's not gonna create them. The second one is the tabs themselves. That's the second one for container. And the last is the tab contents, all of those. So let's look at that. So we have here, this is the first one, creating the div that's called add, delete, editor. We haven't filled them up. It's just an empty div now. This one, another empty div, but this is for the tab container, okay? And then finally, I have another one. It's called tab content, the container and contents, okay? So far, so good. And the truth of the matter, I really don't need that. I don't really need the names because I'm going to use that this container and this title, it's more important. By the way, this is inconsistent. I don't like it at all. I'm not really using that one. I think I can get away with it. I don't think I use it. I don't really need that. I think also this one I don't need. But I got used to it, so that's why I probably put it there. Let me see, I think it should work. Yeah, it should work because there's no reason why. I don't really use it because I use the objects, and if I do editor, it should work perfectly. Yeah, everything works perfect. I don't really need that one. Okay. So I got used to give it an ID all the time, but since I'm using objects, I don't really need it. I can even remove it. If I need it, I'll put it back. But this is more elegant. It's only generating really three divs, empty divs, and appending them to the body. Fair enough? The next one is adding titles. You see titles? By the way, why did, yeah, he's adding titles and he's giving it, yeah, why did I append it here? I should take this one. Let me take this one, be consistent. Okay, just be consistent and put it here. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm creating a first div, empty div. I'm creating another empty div, but this one I'm giving it a class. The only reason is just so it will look nicer. And I can change the styling. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, if you look at that, the reason is, if you notice, if when I'm putting the mouse on top of it, it's showing red, or if I click on it, it's become to be active. That's what that class does. Okay, otherwise it's really, that's the only reason I have a class here. Same things here, this one is an empty div, that's it. So I have three divs, first div, second div, and that just has a little class, so it looks a little nicer. That's it. So three divs, empty three divs. And then I'm adding them. By the way, you can see that I'm just like to save some space. So but this is really adding each one of those div into the body of the HTML. Got it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's simple. That's really easy, but that's the building up the structure. And that's really what the advanced manager does. This is his job. You do it once, and then you can use it all the time. You don't have to write the code all the time. Okay, next. So what do we see next? After I created the containers, I see if I'm my administrator, and I call create, add, delete source buttons. This is really those buttons. Let's refresh. If I'm in, what happened here? By the way, here I am logged in, probably not. What happened? I screwed up something. It's showing here in the bottom here. Why? What did I screw up? I did something. Oh, probably. Let me go back. What did I do? It didn't like me for some reason. Yeah, I know why. Okay, there's a reason why I put it there. This one I should put as the first one. That's why. This should be the first one. Because this is the buttons that I'm going to add. I want them to be first in the page. So I should put it here. Okay? So it will create this, but this is the div in which is going to put all the create, delete, editor. Then it will add the titles, and then it will add the content of each one of those tabs. So now it will be just fine. Okay, this is the first div, second div, and a third div. Now that I have that one, I'm going to see what it does. It's saying if I am an administrator, just call this function. So I'm going to call this function. Later on, maybe I should log as a student, and then we'll see those buttons will go away, like we tried before. Now, let's see what this function does. Here it is, create. So let's see, this is an interesting function. It looks a little more complex, but it really isn't. It's very, very simple. It has to do really two things here. One thing really is make it a button, okay? And make its functionality. So this is the add button. So I'm creating a button, I'm giving it a name, and then I'm adding the click functionality. There's two ways we said, there's two ways to do that. One way, it's this one, and there's another way that I'm going to show you in another place that I use it. So I'm using both styles so you'll be familiar with both of them, okay? Adding, it's like add buttons that add event listener, you put a click, you put a function. So far, so good?
Yes, sir.
Yes, doctor.
But what does it do when you add a button? What does that button does? Let me refresh. What does that add button does? We'll see in a minute. The second button is the delete button. And the delete button also does something. Okay? It's supposed to delete, but what does it do in a minute we'll see. So this is the functionality. So I'm creating a button, see two lines, I'm creating a button, and I'm adding functionality to add a tab. And here, when I'm deleting, so I'm making a button, and I'm giving it functionality to delete. So far, so good?
Yes.
Third one, and it's a little slightly different. The third one is, it's the third button, which is the editor. I'm creating a button, but when I click on it, I want it to open, by the way, I need to click that one first. And then it will open this window. It's slightly different. This one will delete a tab. This one will add a new tab. So each one of them has functionality. And the way we do it, very simple. We create a button, 2 lines, and then we give it functionality. This is the functionality, by the way. Okay? That's the same things. The delete button, I give it functionality. Same things for the last one. I get create element button, and then this is a trick I will teach you. This is a beautiful trick, very important trick. But forget about this line for a second. I'm, you know what, even just to help you out a little bit, it's the same things. You see, the first two lines is the same. I get a button and I put in a name, whatever you see on the button, correct? Now the functionality is slightly different, but here I made a trick. This is a very important trick. And what is this? These refer to what? These refer to the manager himself, because this function, add, create, add, delete belongs to this object. Belongs to these objects. So these inside this function, say I'm now inside the function that belongs to this object. So these refer to this object. And when I'm doing this, kind of look funny. I'm making a button, and the button I'm giving it a property or a name called parent, and I'm telling him who is the parent that created you. This is the administrator itself. You got it? Now,
Yeah.
why did I do that? Because when I create these event, remember here, this one is just adding those buttons to the body. So we don't really care about this one. This is really what we care. We want to understand. We'll start even with this one. This is a powerful one. This one, what it does, a word called editor comes along. What is editor? Who is this editor? We'll see in a minute. So forget about this line first. Forget about this one in a second, okay? Fair enough? Forget about this one in a second. Let's go into the first row here. Oh, I'm creating, what am I creating here? Pay attention. It's a new pop-up window. Do you see that? It's creating an object. Is that right?
Yeah.
So when I click on this button, I'm creating an object. What is the win up, the pop-up point? The win up pop-up point really is the editor. It's an object of an editor. You got it? Later on, we'll see how it's being built. But this is really what the object is. So after I create that one, I'm telling him, make it, by the way, I can change the width, the height, how much left, how much from the top. Let's change those ones. I think this one, if I change it to 5, it will put it up. I always forget. I should really probably. Let's see. Okay, let's refresh. Let's click on this one. And now when I click on this one, it's the third button. It's creating, and you see it's moved it to the right or up. Did it move it up? I don't know. Let's do the following. I always forget. Let's put 55. Let's see if it's moving to the right or to the left. I forget always. I did it and then I forget. Let's refresh. Click. Editor. Yeah, it's moving to the left, to the right. Okay, so that one is left, right. Control Z. Let's see the 15. But this one I want to reduce to 5. So it will be a little higher. And this one make it wider or taller. Okay, this is the width, I think. Let's make this one 650. You'll see it will be a little shorter. Okay, this one I forgot even what this one is, but I can look it up. Control C. Refresh. Here, editor, and you see it's a little up. I think it's even better this way. Okay, got it? So I'm really creating I am creating an object, the editor. This one, another function that belongs to the editor, which is setting really the styling, which is means you can change the color, blah, blah, blah. I forgot. You can add more stuff if you want. And finally, this one, all what it does, it really, it's is adding the listeners. That means the functionality inside. We'll get to that. That's deserve a whole lecture by itself. How do we make that editor? It's not really an easy stuff. So we can't really jump. And then the last one, it just really just show it to you. Okay? And we'll see those functions in a minute. But for now, at least, we made a button. We call that editor on the button. When we click on it, it's activating this one. And what do we have inside? It's creating an editor. Now, what is the first line? You know, when there is no editor, I cannot remove something that doesn't exist. So I made a function called remove. I made a function called remove win. We'll see it in a minute. But if the editor doesn't exist, it will give me an error. That's why I put it in the try. When I put it in the try and the editor doesn't exist, I want it just to ignore it. You got it? So that's why I'm calling it, but I'm catching an error, but I don't really care. It's not really an error, just that it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, I don't really care. So ignore, it's like, you got an error, okay, move on. You got it? And now we'll see what this one remove editor means. It just remove the editor. The reason I'm doing it, it's when I click on this button, okay, pay attention, I'm transferring tab object. You got it?
Yes.
And who is the tab that I want this editor to work on? It's the active tab. And how the active tab being done, it's because I added some functionality. When I click here, it makes Sigal to be the active one now. And when I click here, the editor takes the active and make it that the editor works on it. So far, so good? This is really hard. Okay, let's move on. So we have three buttons. One is the making an editor for that tab. One is adding a tab, and one is deleting. So let's go over one of them. It's really hard, but it's worth the, and I think that's enough for today. Or we'll see how much you can survive. Okay, let's look at this button. I'm clicking on it. When I click on it, what do I want it to do? Let's make a new button. Let's say, and then we understand this function. Let's refresh and click Add Tab. What the first is I'm getting? A prompt telling me what's the name. Okay, let's give it a name of, I don't know, which name do we want? Math. Let's just call it math. Let me try with a capital M. I don't know if I ever tried it, math. Okay. So what is this prompt? When I clicked on Add Tab, this is really the functionality. It really is just those lines, and this is the function. And what I'm doing with the function, I'm making a prompt. Prompt is a JavaScript that allows me to type some name or something. Whatever I type, it puts it in the tab name. So I have a variable name called tab name underscore. Now I'm checking if the person have entered really something. If he didn't enter anything, I'm just telling him you have to enter something. What does it really mean? That if I don't put anything here and do okay, it will not do anything. Because I'm not going to make a tab empty tab. Fair enough? That's the only purpose. So it says, please enter a tab name. Okay, so here we go. I click again. This time I will write math. Okay, I want to make a math tab. So the first two lines is really nothing but making sure that a person enter a tab name. Now that I have a tab name, see what I'm going to do. I'm going to call this link. Remember where these links come from. Where does these links come from? That links come from, if you remember here, we gave it this link, the active function link. This function exists in the core application, correct? And it is by the name of active function. So we're going to look at that function in a second. So, but to know how to call that, we had to call Ginger to translate and give us the link, the exact address. And that's what we're doing here. We're getting it into the object advanced tab manager, and the advanced tab manager, we're using it. So ATM, oh, what is ATM underscore? I want the manager. Now here's the beauty trick. Remember when we created the advanced tab manager, okay? We gave it his name. So that's another trick. There's few tricks that you can do it. One other trick is when I'm here, pay attention. I am now in the advanced tab manager. And this is the advanced tab manager. And I want to transfer it inside. This is really hard. It took me a long time to figure it out and get it works in the right way. I'm transferring it to this function. This function that is the click for the button, it doesn't know. This function doesn't know who is the administrator. I need to tell him when I'm clicking inside the function, it doesn't know who is the administrator. Although the administrator created it, it doesn't know what it is. You got it? So one way to transfer it, it's use what is known as bind. So when I call bind, I can transfer variables inside the function. One of which I used here is ATM underscore, and I said this. This means the administrator. That's the way I transfer it into, but pay attention. I'm transferring it to this function. You see that the yellow? It's the outside function. So far, so good. And click also has an event, so I can transfer the event to it too. So I'm getting the event inside if I need it. So this is why I'm transferring the advanced tabs himself, so the button will know who is my parent, who is really created me, really. Now is the hardest, even harder. I'm going to call this link of whoever created me. That's why I needed to transfer it to it. And this one, we know already this one, isn't it? Do we know? Yeah, this is the one we're sending an Ajax. Correct, Daniel? To where we're going to send the Ajax according to what we created right here. We created here is in the core. We're going to go to the active function. Let's see if we have that function. We should. We have to, otherwise it won't work. We go to the core and we look at the URLs. And we look if there is a function. Yeah, there is a function called active function, correct? And that function takes me to the view. And here it is. Wow, but this is really complex one. This is very, very complex. Very elegant too. As complex it is, it's very elegant, which saves us a hell of a lot of writing thousands. We can write so many functions here, and it's getting crowded, and then you get lost and you make mistakes. But when you do it once and be consistent, and that's something, Daniel, I'm saying Daniel because I'm expecting you to do that. Okay? You want to document it, and we're going to work all the time this way. And you always, what will happen to you eventually, you always copy from yourself. You might forget how we designed it. I will definitely forget. But I always can come and see how I did it. Okay, and copy for myself. What do I mean by that? Pay attention to how elegant it is. I'm calling this function, and what am I transferring to this function? I'm transferring a dictionary. See, that's a dictionary, correct? And I'm transferring it to this function. The truth of the matter, this function, it's not really a function. It's a function that makes or call other functions. And that function that is going to call belongs to an object in Python. This is the beauty when I'm combining JavaScript with Python and database. That's the beauty and so elegant. How does it work? I made a dictionary. What do I have in the dictionary? Pay attention. I'm telling him one of the things is an object, and the object is the object name in Python. So I should have an object called advanced steps in Python, because this is the one I want to use. And which functions of this one I want to use, it's right in the file here. So I just made it short. This object should have a function called add tab. So far, so good. So I want, by sending these objects to Python, I want Python in the view to create this object, and after creating this object, to call this function. Not only that, when you created this object, in the init function, I want you to transfer to it the name of the admin. Remember, ATM is the underscore is the object that the administrator, and remember I transferred so he knows his name, otherwise he doesn't know who he is. It's kind of funny language I'm talking. I'm telling him your name is, so you know who you are. Kind of funny, okay? But I'm telling him your name is such and such, okay? Now, when you go to Python, don't forget your name is whatever name I gave you. What did I give him this name? It's so funny because the place I gave the name, it really is right here. What is that function? I think it's called tab. No, not in the core, sorry. What did I created that one? The truth of the matter, I created it in here. When I created in here, I gave it this name and the same name I put it right here. And where did I name that? It is in the view, in this view. In this view, I gave it the name ATM. Got it? It looks very complex. So in here, I'm really calling this HTML. Inside the HTML, I'm transferring him. I'm sending you a name of ATM that I want you to create. So when he gets to here, he's creating an object with that name. And I'm telling him, the administrator, your name is this. My name is, that means administrator, my name is. So he knows his name. When we get to the code and it gets to here, he's going to use it. And how is he going to use it? Because when I'm calling this link, I'm sending him a dictionary. And inside the dictionary, I'm telling him the object that I want you to create is this one. And this object, when it's being created, it should know that is working with an administrator with this name. And in minutes we will see that. Fair enough? It's hard. Okay? Because I can have several administrators. And each one of them, I give them a separate name. So when I call this function, I'm telling him which name to use. You will see how I use it because it's very important. So far, so good. And I'm telling him, create this one, know your name, and this is the function I want you to activate. But you know what? When you're calling this function, inside this function, I want you to use these parameters, and the parameters I'm sending you, it is a dictionary. So inside this function, you're going to accept, you should accept parameters. And let's see how I'm using this stuff inside this function, which is the activate functions. So I'm going to copy this one for you so you can understand what I did here. I go to the call and look at what I did here. Look at the dictionary, the way it's structured. Let me just Control Z. Yeah, I love that. So you don't get lost. I got lost so many times until I got it right. This is, I'll just comment it out, so just don't forget. Here, in the request, what am I going to get in the request? I'm getting a dictionary. Is that right? That's dictionary I'm getting in the request. That's one we know very well. Is that right, Daniel?
Yes, doctor.
Because in here, when we sending something, say I'm sending dictionary, but hold a second. If I just put dic right here, it will not work. I can transfer only strings in an Ajax. In the Ajax, I can only send a string. So how can I send a dictionary? So the way I send a dictionary, there is a function in JSON which take a dictionary in JavaScript and make it as a string. So far, so good?
So good.
So I'm transferring a string by the name dic. And the way I'm getting it is like regular variables that we already have done so many times. So I'm getting to the view here. I'm getting this dictionary, but this one is a string. Is that right? That's a string. Now, the problem is I'm in Python now. I got a string in a dictionary of JavaScript, but the structure in Python and JavaScript is the same for dictionary. But still, when I'm getting it here, I'm getting a string. It doesn't help me. I cannot work with a string. I need to turn it into a dictionary inside Python. And that's why this line comes here. This one, what it does, it takes this string and the eval, run a string, it's like it's running it as a command, and it's turning it into a Python dictionary. That's pretty cool. That's a very powerful trick. Now that I have a dictionary, very easy. I can get, now I have a dictionary, is that right? Correct? Now I can
Yes,
take
sir.
all those pieces. I take the object, it means this is the objects I want you to create. Then I want you, when you're creating it, I want you to transfer to it the name of the administrator in JavaScript. So that's why I'm taking this one out. Then I want you to call the function add data. And then I want you finally transfer to this function those parameters. So how the functions will look like. I did it last time and I promised that I would go over it again. That's what I'm doing now. Now look at the beauty. Here is the object name that I'm going to have, by the way, object name, parentheses, and inside, and pay attention, I have, this is the trick. I have to have a single quotation because it has to be transferred as a string. And how do I know that? Because I have an object with the name advanced tabs. Where did I put that one, by the way? Where did I put that one, by the way? I defined it in a different page.
It's,
Here it
it's,
is.
it's under the core.
What?
It's under the core.
I stopped recording.
No, I mean
Under the core, where it's located.
It's in the core. Here we go. If you look at that, by the way, if you put the mouse here, it tells you. You see in the core. But since I wanted everything to be in the core, I put that one in the core. In the core, we have this right here. So this object is right here. Got it? And in the core, I also have the view. That's the one we're looking at here. You see that? This function is there. Got it?
Yes.
So, and also have the URLs, because without the URLs, I can't really get to the view. So this one is in the call, calling this function, and this function is going to call or create an object that is defined inside the call. And I called it advanced steps. Fair enough? I could have put that one in here, but I didn't want it to. I wanted it to have its own place. So this is the object. And I might add more functionality in the future. For now, to create the object, I need to transfer manager name, correct? And what is the manager name I'm transferring? When I look at here, I'm transferring exactly what we transferred here, the ATM, my name, his name. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he's transferring to that, the object, which is the name of the object is advanced steps. I'm making a string, by the way, you're noticing. I'm making a string because I'm adding all those points. In a minute, I will also show it to you. By the way, let me show it to you here. I will write alert. I think I did it last time, but I will do it again. S. So you'll see how the string looks like, the command. So this one is creating the object and putting inside the name of the administrator. And the dot function is calling, after it's creating it, is calling the functions that I transfer. In this case, is a tab. And when I'm adding a tab, pay attention, I'm opening parentheses. And what am I transferring inside? I'm transferring a dictionary. This one now is a dictionary. A dictionary that holds the parameters I need these functions to use. So far, so good? That's pretty hard. Is that right?
True.
Is that right?
Yes.
I think last week I gave you some assignment to try to write stuff. I know it was probably hard, but please, this week, please do that according to what I told you. I think I divided the work between you. Am I right?
Yes.
So why don't you write it down? This week it's a little, I went over that one more time. It's hard. It really is hard. It's probably one of the hardest you can get in software engineering. Okay. I'm transferring the parameters. Now it's beautiful. Okay. Is the eval does it create the object, run the function and transfer parameters. And this one, what is it really? I need to go here and look for add tab. Where is the add? Here we go. This is the function. I'm transferring parameters to it. In fact, the job of this one is to add a new row in the database, because I want to put there the HTML and I want to put the functions of that tab. So see what it does is inside, this is the data. By the way, why is this table also in the core? I want to keep everything in the core because I want it to be used by a lot of programs. You got it? So
Yeah.
that's why I kept also the database in the core itself. So the core has a model. Let's look at the model. Models, anybody? Here we go. And here I have this table. And that table has 5 rows. Yeah, the index, which I don't care about. I have the AT name. I have the tab name. I have the tab text, and I have the tab functions. In this one, I'm keeping the HTML. And this one, I'm going to keep all the functions. Fair enough? And this one, just the tab name. Is that right? And this one, who is the administrator? So I'm putting it here. That's why, by the way, in order to put this one in here, that's why I'm transferring to it the name of the administrator. So look at that, what's happening. I'm transferring this one, and the parameters. So when I get to this object, I have the object. When I transfer the manager. And here I'm transferring the parameters. What parameters did I transfer? The truth of the matter, if you look at here, I transferred the parameters, include the tab name. So now that I have the tab name here, let's go back to here. I'm taking the tab name right from here. Okay? And now I have everything I need. I'm going to this table and I say get or create. It really should be always create because every time I'm making a new one. So I could have got by saying just create, but I like get or create. Okay? So I'm creating a new tab and the tab, a new row in the table. The manager name with the tab name, meaning in this table, where's the table? The table, I'm only filling up those two columns. Is that right? When I'm creating it. This one gonna be null and this one gonna be null. They are empty when I'm creating the row. That's what happened when I call this, when I call this line. When I'm calling this line, I'm only transferring the name of the manager and the tab name. I'm not doing anything about the functions. I'm not doing anything about the HTML. It's going to be empty, totally empty. Okay? After this being created, is automatically adding the ID. Remember we said the model has 5 rows. 4 I define and automatically create an ID. Is that right? So I'm sending back the ID is creating when it's creating that row. So after the row is being created, where is it? Here we go. So I'm getting really a new tab. Okay, I will have a new tab. This one will always say true because it always would create one. So that's what it say is new. This should be always true. And the new tab should have an ID. So I'm getting the ID and I'm making a new dictionary. All the work from now on, we always get a result variable. The result variable will tell me the ID of the row that was created for that tab. So far, so good. So that one goes back and pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm getting the result. If there's any error for some reason, I will just put tab ID -1. Okay, means I will know it's an error. I don't even check for it because I know it shouldn't be any mistake. In any case, I'm returning the result. So what is the result? The result is a dictionary, correct? So the add tab in the end of the day and the adding a row inside the table and returning a dictionary telling me the ID of the new row. And that goes back to where? Well, that goes back. Let's go and look at that. Who did this work? The eval, which calls that one. And the result, by the way, when you do eval equal, result equal, the dictionary, this becomes to be a dictionary. Got it? And now I always return it, result is result. So this means I'm returning a dictionary to the JavaScript. One is status okay, and inside the status, I put result equal result. So far, so good. That's really hard. Now I go back to the JavaScript. Now I'm back finally here. I get back the dict. This is the results really. Inside I have a status, which should say okay, and I should have a variable called result. Here it is. Dict result. And what do I have inside the result? The result itself is the dictionary. And as you recall, the result has a variable called tab ID. And that's what I really want. It's the tab ID. So we'll look at the tab ID. I'm taking the tab ID. Now I know the number of that row in the database. Okay, now that I have the raw number, now I'm creating a tab object. Okay, so what really happened? Let's go step again. I have a button called add button. I'm creating the add button. Okay, so I can see it. So there is a button. I clicked on it. It opened it up. I wrote a math. Is that right? When I wrote a math, it went all the way from the math. I got the tab name. It goes to create this sophisticated dictionary. Okay, and it's sending that dictionary to the view. And it tells him, go to this object. This is the administrator. This is the function I wanted to use, the add tab. And this is the parameters I wanted to use. Okay, it gets from here, goes to the view. From the view, it's taking all the stuff from the dictionary, creating this command, which is basically creating an object, this object, giving him the manager name, and that object's we're calling his add tab function. This add tab function does is making a new row in the database and then sending me back in the result is sending me back the ID of the new row. Now that I have the ID of the new row, I got to here, and now what I'm doing with it, I want to create a tab. I only made a row in the database, but I don't have a tab, correct? I don't have a button that says math here. Is that right? I want it to say math here. When I click on it, I want it to have its own div, which will hold the content. I don't have it here. So when I click OK, by the way, it's calling some functions that ignored it. See what it did? Oh, who did this button? Who made this button? By the way, this is the div that goes with this button. Who made it? Then I gave the allegation and I gave the job to be done by a new object called tab. So there's an object in JavaScript called tab that I made. And when I'm creating him, I'm transferring to him what is the ID. That means what was really the new, see the tab ID is nothing but getting the tab ID from the database that view created. The view that called the objects, created the row in the database, gave me the ID back. And now when I'm creating the tab object on the client, his job is to make a button and make a div that goes with that button. So far, so good?
So
A bit, yeah.
And now, in order to be organized, where am I going to put this new object so I can follow it up? Hey, ATM.tabs. Who is ATM? I don't see it's defined. We only defined in the bind here, we define ATM. And this is really killed me for several hours until I figured out how to do it. Inside, you see the yellow? The bind is the administrator itself because it's a function there. But inside these functions that being called when the data cut get back, it doesn't know who is the administrator. So I have to transfer to it again, to this function this time. But outside of this function, I know is ATM underscore, which is this, means this admin. So in order to know how to refer to that inside here, I have to transfer it again, and that's why I change. ATM equal ATM underscore mean it really is the administrator. So that's the why I'm retransferring inside to this internal function. And this internal function, why do I need it? Because if you recall, I defined this dictionary, remember? And I want this dictionary to hold the object tab that I created. I created the object tab. And when I created the object tab, I want to keep it inside the dictionary of the administrator so the administrator can manage it. Okay, so now after this one, it's, by the way, in the dictionary, I give it the ID in the database, and I created a new object. This object is in charge of creating the buttons for that tab and the div in which it's going to be there. It's going to manage all the stuff of the HTML and the functions, blah, 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 blah. A lot of things it's going to do. Okay? And other things, by the way, when I create it, I'm transferring to it HTML nothing because there is no HTML. I don't know what the page going to look like. I'm just getting a blank tab. Okay? I'm telling him his name. His name is the tab name. And the tab name is what the person have typed in here. So I'm going to tell him your name is going to be this name because this is really what the person wanted. So he's keeping his name there. He's not creating any HTML, just putting blank. And I'm telling him this is the ID in the database that you have. Now I need to go and figure out what this one does. Okay? Fair enough? Everybody got it? This is now becomes to be another hurdle, which is not easy. This is also a nightmare just to deal with this one. It looks like a simple, but it really has to in charge, is in charge now, is really in charge of a lot, is in charge of managing this tape. Everything's inside, it has to handle. Moreover, it has to communicate with the editor as well, which is not a trivial exercise. But let's say I will take one things back. I want to go back one things. Let's see what we're returning in the dictionary, by the way. What are we returning in the dictionary? When we returned here, we called this one and we got back, if you notice here, we got back the results. What do we have in the results? Let's look at the result. The results are right from here. So what do we have in the results? We have only the tab ID. Am I right? I created and we got the tab ID. That's all what I needed. There's no functions and there's no functions and there is no HTML. So that's all what I needed for now. We'll see later on that when we call this one has to give me much more than that in a second. But for now, all what I need is the ID. I transfer the ID. Let's see what's happening in this function. Okay, I'll just go over that once and next time I'll go over that again. Okay, because that's really required a lot of work. What is it? I'm skipping on those ones for now. Okay, there is something called set tabs, but we'll go over that next time. Okay, let's see what the tab does. The tab is really a hard one. Let's look at when I'm creating it. First of all, I'm telling him who is his parents. And how do you know that? Because when you go here, what was that? Here we go. See, this is only one button, believe it or not, see how complex it is. But it's elegant, it really is elegant. I'm telling him who is his parents. This is the ATM. The ATM is the parents. The administrator, who is the administrator? The administrator is the one that really holding it. Remember, administrator is holding it inside himself in a dictionary. Okay? So I'm telling him, you know who is holding you? I'm telling the tab, who is holding you is ATM. So in case the tab wants to communicate to other tabs, it will do it through the ATM object. And we'll see that in the future. Okay? For now, the only thing is I'm telling him who is his parent. I'm telling him his name. I'm telling him you have no HTML, you are empty, and I'm giving him his ID in the database. So in case he needs to communicate to the database, he needs to know to which row in the table it belongs to. Now we go and see that one in action. So we're going into the tab, we're opening this one and see what's happening here. Okay, this one is getting his parents, he's skipping it in, he's keeping his name, he call himself tab name. So we know the tab name is his name. That's really what's written on the button, what should be on the button. Now we keep the ID in the database. And by the way, we have a button which is empty for now. And we have a content, which it should have a content, which is the div, which will hold that page. And we have also another thing which is interesting, make it even another layer of complexity. If there is any pop-up win belongs to this tab, okay, keep them there. And now I don't think I'm using it. I don't think I'm using it, but in a second I will see, okay? Okay, this is just definitions. It's just putting variables. I'm not doing anything. Let's see now what's happening here. I'm saying if the tab function is null, that means it's the first time I'm creating it. There's no function, correct? I'm telling him, you know what? Go ahead and add to yourself an empty function. And what is this empty function going to be? It's going to have a dictionary. First of all, I'm going to create a dictionary. I'm going to create a dictionary, yeah. And the dictionary is going to be inside a variable called these tab functions. So the tab going to have another things, which is tab functions, which is a dictionary. And the dictionary is going to hold all the functions. But since it's empty in the beginning, first time I'm creating it, I'm telling him, make this dictionary to have inside itself a dictionary which is empty. So tab function is a dictionary of functions, but the function has no function, so it's empty. So far so good. Then create a new function. So see, if you look at that very carefully, these tabs is a dictionary, which inside it has a function. So if you look at here, these tab function functions, it's really referring to this empty one. And inside his, I'm telling him, make a new function. And which function I want you to create by the name of the tab name underscore underscore init underscore underscore. That's going to be the name of the function that I want you to have. Okay, so that's the name of the function. And now this one should be equal to what? This is really the function he's going to create. Here is the name, again, equal to function. Hey, see the beauty. That's the beautiful part. I'm telling him, make an init function, and I'm transferring to it who is the tab. Okay, so I'm going to transfer to it an object. I'm not doing it here. I'm just telling him, create a function that accepts a variable called object. And in a second, we'll see what an objects mean. Okay, this one I commented out intentionally, so you can really ignore it. I can even delete it. I was doing it for testing. I'll leave it for now, so ignore it. And then close the function. So you have inside it, you only, the only things here, you're just really adding this one. The truth of the matter is I really can delete this one altogether, and I don't really need that line either. I can just take it out and do it that way. That will be also easier to understand now that I know it works. So what am I really doing? I'm making a function that by the name of the tab, underscore underscore init equal function, I transfer objects to it, and it's an empty one, empty function. And the name, I'm keeping that function in a dictionary, okay, that this tab is holding. So each tab is holding his functions. Okay, so far so good. Then if, on the other hand, if it's not the first time, as we will see next time, when I'm pulling the data from the database and I have a lot of functions there already, okay, I will use that second part. I will do it next time. Okay, when I have a function, finally, okay, even, hold a second, one more. I need to have, don't I call it here? Yeah, I call it here. Okay, I'll come back to that one. I'll come back to that one in a second. So what next I'm doing? Next, if the HTML is null, meaning it's the first time I'm calling it, okay, just put it in empty. By the way, I always transfer nothing. But when I always transfer nothing, so this is really useless. But let's leave it, okay? If it's not empty, just put whatever comes from the database. So this one and this one we'll do next week, those two. When I get the function from the database, when it's filled. Next time we'll do that. But okay, next, what am I doing? I'm creating the button and the container. See, so far I did really nothing. I just, when it's the first time I'm creating an empty function, hey, what is this empty function really? Let's look at it. We just created the math, is that right? Let's refresh. Let's go, click here, click the math, editor, code, bingo. Do you see that? Who did that one? See the name of the function?
Yeah, math
It's the
init.
tab name, underscore, underscore, init, underscore, underscore. That's the name of the function. What do you see on the right side? The name of the functions equal to a function, receive an object and nothing inside. That's exactly this line, isn't it? This is exactly this line, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's really what does it. It's beautiful. But how do I really show it in the editor is a different story. We'll get to that later on next time. Okay? It's hard. It really is hard and required that you guys, that's why I don't really want everybody to be in the group. Only you guys. Because I don't think everybody can handle it. But you really should work hard and try to handle it, and I'll go over that again next time. Now that I have the function, you see how it's created. The HTML is empty because it's the first time I create. Yeah, let's go into the HTML. It's empty. See that? Nothing. And now let's go next. I want now, but I didn't really create it. So who's creating this button? Who created this button? Somebody needs to create this button. And when I click on it, it should create, there is a div for it. Okay? Who does that? So after I'm doing those two things, I'm really going to this function to create the button and the container. And that should be a simple function. Create button container. Where is that? Do you see that? Yeah, here it is. That should be a simple function. Basically, this is creating the button. And this is, and by the way, when I click on it, it should do stuff. So I need to handle the on click. See, and this is the way I did it here. I did it slightly different. Again, we'll go over that next time. Too much, we won't be able to handle it. And also I'm creating a div to hold the content of the, whatever is the page supposed to be, okay? Whatever I'm typing inside. So this function actually create the button and the div to hold the HTML of that tab. Now, finally, what I do, I call a function init tab. And that's really cool. Why is it cool? I might use it in the future for other things, but what do I do for now? Remember, I created to this object this empty init. Is that right? But what good does it do? What that function that good if I'm not calling it? I want to call it, I want it to be activated when the page is being created. Fair enough? when is this tab being created? Right in here. So the trick to do that, I made another function that belongs to the tab, which I'm calling it when I am, by the way, I could really got by calling this function directly, but I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to allow myself to do and add other things if I need to. So I made another function called init tab. And the only things inside is nothing really bad. If you have a good eye, look at that. This is the init function, okay? Look at the init function. This is easier for you. What am I doing here? Nothing really. Nothing really hard. I'm just calling, hey, what is this one? This is the init function. This is the function we created here when we created this object. Remember? How does it look like? It's the tab name, underscore, underscore init. And now I'm transferring object. What is object? Object is this. Who is this? This is the tab because these functions belong to the tab. So I'm transferring to this function as object the tab itself. So then I can use it inside the function I will write in JavaScript. Otherwise, it will be useless. So the beauty here that I'm literally creating an init function, I'm calling it, and I'm transferring to this function who is this tab. And I can utilize it to even create the whole tab if I want. I can write all the, even I don't need to have the HTML at all. I can just create it in JavaScript if I want. We can exercise it for a second if you want. You will see it will work. Okay? I'll do it next week. Okay? Too much for today, I think. It's, okay. So let me just put back what I just did a second ago. I just want to make it like one line. Now, I don't really care. I usually, after I do it, I forget about it. The other reason here, why did I do it this way? So if in the future, if I want not only to call this function, but do other things, I can put it right in the init tab. But I don't know. If I don't, I don't. If I do, then I know that my architectures, it's the right way to do it. And I will be able to edit there. So let's go back now to here. And now try to understand what we did. Let's go back now. And here in the math, let's just write something. Alert. I like math. Okay? And by the way, I click here, I need to fix it. So now when I clicked, I will show you next week. It takes whatever it's inside here, it keeps it in the dictionary. It's not saving it to the database. Next week, we talk about how do we save this one in the database. When I click save, okay, it's saved in the database. If I refresh now, see what will happen. Each one of them has that function. Is that right? Is creating the tabs. It gets to the math, is activating this function. That's beautiful. And bingo. The other ones don't have anything. So I go into the math. If I want to go to the math again, I can deactivate. In fact, I can leave it. Just do that. It'll be just the same things. It will still be run. Is that right? But it's not going to be activated. Got it?
Yes.
How does it work? It's really much more complex when I get the data from the database. We'll get to that. But this is one of the harder things. I did it 20 years ago, believe it or not, in a different way. This one, I combine it a little bit with Django. But this is something that required a hell of a lot of experience, and it's powerful. It's so powerful. I just finished with a very simple things. Very, very simple. Let's create a button here inside this tab, and that will be the end for today, okay? Document. Okay, that. How do we create? I always forget. My God, I can't believe that. I can't remember anything. Where did I do all of that stuff? Right here, isn't it? Gosh, not the tab. Here we go. Let me copy those stuff, okay? I'm putting it here. That's the beauty. I can make it here even if I want. I'm just going to call it button just for simplicity. I don't really need even, I can, by the way, if I want to add this button to the object, I can just do object dot button. I'm not going to do that. Okay. And I'm going to call that just test. Okay. So the button going to be having this one. So far, so good. That's all. But where am I going to put it? I want to put it in the inside the place of the met object. How do I do that? I know the object, okay? This is the object. And the object has to have a container. This is the tab that I want to put it in. So I will do object dot. But I need to really see how did I construct it. If you look at the tab, let's go to the tab. If you have a good eye, when we create a button, see what do we do? We create a button. This button, it's nothing but this button. The container is content. You see that? You got it? It has a name called content. And what it is really a div. You get it? You see the div?
Yes.
Okay? And inside this div, I want to put my stuff. So I'm going to use, by the way, here we go. I would just, let me copy those ones so I don't forget. I know what to copy from it. So let me do that, and I will delete it in a second. I just need this, that content. So I don't really need that one anymore. And I want to do append. And I'm going to throw that one away. And it's not this, but btn. Right? I do recommend always put a var here, so it will be a local variable. So when this met, but when the met tab is being created, this function is going to be called, and it is going to create a button inside it. That's what I'm expecting it to do. Let's see if it works. I never tried it. By the way, this is fresh. I just worked on it this week. I saved it. By the way, let's look at the database. That would be really fun. Where's the database? Let's go back. We have a met. We should have a met. Oh, it's here. Met. Here we go. Let's click on the met. What do we have in the met? Oh, we have this function. You see that? It's beautiful, isn't it? Now when I call it, let's see, refreshing this one. Refresh. I saved it, I think, yeah. Let's just double check. Refresh. Hey, we have a button. That's pretty cool. Isn't it, Daniel? You can make the whole page just inside that init function. I know you like it, Daniel. But his brain is exploding. I hear the popping like a popcorn up to Israel. Honest to God, I almost lost my head when I did it. It's hard. It is hard. But see how beautiful it is. Now I can give you an exercise, don't I, Daniel? How will you make this test? When I click on it, it says, oh, this is a test. See how elegant it could be. See, we'll do that and finish. I'm gonna back to here, go to the editor, go to the code, click on this one, and this is so easy. Why is it so easy? What do I need to do, Daniel? Very simple. btn dot, go ahead, on click, is that right? Equal,
Yes.
Open brackets.
equal to what? Function,
Main
Okay.
function.
is that right? Event, and then here, I'm just putting a function. This is another function in another function. It's pretty cool. Alert. This is a test. Fair enough?
Yeah.
I've just added a function to the button that I'm creating when these objects being created, and he's calling his own init function. So let's see if it works. I think Brenda is totally shocked. Is that right? Let's refresh. Hey, it works. This is a test. Isn't it cool? Can I give you a really hard exercise? You will jump out of the window. Let's see if you can do it.
Next week.
I will help you. I will help you. See, when I click here, go to the editor, and I go to here, I don't want these buttons to be here. I want these buttons to be in the Amos. See, when I go to, or let's go to Michael. You know what? Hold a second. When I go to Michael, I want the buttons to be in Michael button. How can I make it from within the mail? That's going to be a nice exam question.
In the HTML.
How do I do that it's not creating it inside this one? See, the object refer to this one, is that right?
Yes.
But how do you, so why did I design it in an interesting way? See the powerful, when you build up something, you need to be really thinking about all this complexity. You see the tab, what the tab has? A parent. Who is the parents of the tab? It's the administrator, isn't it? And when I create the tab, I'll finish with that, I promise. I won't kill you too much in one day. I already killed you, I think, today. But when we did the set tab, no, not this one. What did I do that? God, add, the add button, isn't it? Yeah, here we go. See, when I created the tab here, when I created the tab here, I transferred the administrator as a parent, correct? And if you see, the administrator has all the other tabs in here in the tab. So what can I do if I want to put it under Michael? So see what I need to do. I go here, very simple, becomes to be so elegant. Instead of putting it, let's leave this one, let's leave this one. Everything I leave the same. I just put that parent, is that right? And what do I have in the parent? The parent has a variable called, say again, tabs, isn't it? So far, so good. But which tabs do I want it to put it in? Which tab we said we want it to be in? Which one? We said Michael. So let's write Michael. That's the way I can navigate. That's why I have, did I spell it right? M-I-C. Yeah, that's correct. But inside the tabs of Michael, it has a content too, because it's the same. And I will append this button into his page. Let's see if it works. That would be really cool. Refresh. Okay. So I had an reading content. I guess I have an error. Why do I have an error? Yeah, I do have an error. Let's see why. Why do I have an error? Object, parent, tips, Michael, dot content. So why is the error? Anybody see the error? I don't see it. You know, the best way to do, just to be sure, sometimes it will get.
Number.
Do you see any error? This one is fine. This one is fine. This one is fine. And I think everything is fine, isn't it? Michael. Let's put here alert. Let's see if that's alert one. Let's see if I will discover the error. Should be okay. Refresh. One, we do getting the one. Cannot read properties of undefined reading content. Why do I get that error? I don't know. Why am I getting that error? I can guess only. User maybe haven't been created. Maybe Michael is being created after the math. I think Michael is already created. So let's do that after this one. Let's do that. This is what I usually do. Alert. With that, we'll finish. I know it was too long. It's too hard. And I didn't really meant to content. Let's do that. And we'll finish with that, okay? And what I usually do, I'll do a few of those. And I start with object. It should not give me an error, correct? And this one should not give me an error. Oh, hold a second. I called it parent, didn't I? Let me double check. In the tab, parent, this parent, yes, this is the name I gave it. So this should be okay. Then this should be okay, Michael. And that's, this one should be okay. And let's do here, dot out tail HTML, okay? And let's see what do I get screwed up. Let's do click, save, and refresh. One. We have an object, is okay. That's an object, okay. That's okay, undefined. The third one is undefined. Hey, I know why. Anybody can help? I know what is my mistake. What is my mistake? It's not my mistake, really. It's the way I defined it, and maybe I should have defined it differently, but I know I need to think about it. In the advance, in the tabs, when we create the table, the tab, when we create the tab, it's the ID that I need. You got it? I need the ID. You got it?
Yes.
He doesn't know. So Michael, I do really need to know the ID, but the user don't know that. So maybe that was a mistake on my part to use ID, but I'm going to handle it. I will handle it in a different, no, I like the ID to be there. It's just that a user cannot know what the number is. It's like he has to go here and say Michael is number 11, I don't want people to program that way. You got it?
Yeah.
We're gonna go click here, and if I will go here and go here and try putting here, not Michael, but 11. I think I need it in parentheses or not. Let's see. Try 2 ways. 11. That's what I need to do. 11. 11. And 11. I just need to give a way to a person to know which, maybe when it's administrator, when you put the mouse, I'll make it will show you the number so you know how to program it. You got it? Because otherwise, this is really not a good way. A person doesn't know what number each one of them. And we don't want them to have an access to the database. So let's save it. Let's refresh. And one, object, 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 up. And here we go. You got it? And here we go. So let's go to Michael. There is a button. Test me. Bingo. And it's pretty cool.
Finally.
Huh?
Finally.
But this is amazing, no? This is not a simple stuff. Why, Daniel? You're shocked or what? Or you don't know what to say? Or you scared? You got scared the first time you saw the first course. Then you got shocked when you got certificate 2. Then you got shocked when you're getting certificate 3. And now you're getting shocked when you see this stuff.
Doctor, I have a question.
Yeah.
On that part for the math, if you go to its code,
What?
I mean on that other part of math, the math button,
This button?
math, I mean the math button,
Is it what?
Master.
math button,
A must?
next to Michael.
It's in Michael, you see? When I go to here, there's no button here.
Yes, I mean, I want to see the code. I have a question inside that code.
You want when I click here, it will say Michael?
He has a
I mean
question.
inside the code for the math, where we place that code.
I didn't got it. Say again, Michael. I didn't understand. Did you understand?
First click on math, doctor.
On what to click?
Click on math
He wants you to
I
click
click on
the
math,
master.
yes,
and then click editor.
and click editor. Okay?
Then the code.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
We don't need all of that stuff, of course. Yeah, this is all was for us. This is
So I
all.
wanted to inquire whether, in case, what if you use tab name, tab ID there instead of level? Will it be recognized?
Yeah, I put number 11. That's the way I designed the whole architecture. The
What
index.
if we use tab ID as we named it in the
Exactly.
Right.
I can think about. No, I tell you what I was afraid of with the ID. If I have many of them in the database, I will not have a unique name. Maybe some people will use the same tab name in different administrator, and then I will have conflict. On the other hand, the ID always will be unique because it's a primary key. You got it?
yes.
That's the only reason why I put it there. So I need to find a way to help people to know, and in such a way that they don't really need to know that Michael is number 11. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's not a good way to ask people to make program. You got it?
Yeah.
So we need to fix it. We need to come with a creative way. A lot of things still has to be fixed. This is just one of them. And other things, how do I add more functions here? You remember I did it by hand. I put it in the database. It shouldn't be. And I already built up the structure. When you click on code, okay, it should add another row of buttons or stuff that I need in the bottom. You got it? And one of them will be create a function. And I want to make more smart things. I want to make something that will say, add a function that create a table. Kind of make it automated creating a table so you don't have to type all of that all the time. There will be a lot of smart things that will be in the end. But this is the beginning. It's a good beginning that works. You saw it works. Is that right? That's pretty cool. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I think I killed you enough for one day. What do you say?
Yes.